What if the person you can't stop thinking about isn't actually the person you're in love with? Maybe you're obsessed with their body, their attention, the way they look at you, the rush you feel when their name appears on your phone, and you call it love. But sometimes what feels like love is simply desire wearing a romantic disguise. And the dangerous part, lust and love can feel almost identical in the beginning. Your heart races, you think about them constantly, you want to be near them, you crave their attention. So how do you know which one you're actually feeling? There's one psychological difference that changes everything. Lust asks, what can I get from this person? Love slowly starts asking, what can I understand about this person? Imagine meeting someone for the first time. The chemistry is instant. You notice their eyes, their voice, their body, the way they touch you. You replay the conversation later that night. You want them. And because the feeling is intense, your brain may interpret that intensity as emotional connection. But intensity isn't proof of love. Sometimes it's simply attraction plus novelty plus anticipation. And here's where it gets interesting. Lust is usually focused on the experience the person creates inside you. Love becomes increasingly interested in the person themselves, their fears, their flaws, their boring days, their insecurities, their dreams. Lust can say, I love how you make me feel. Love eventually says, I want to know who you are, even when you're not making me feel anything. That difference becomes obvious when the excitement disappears, because lust often survives on anticipation. The next text, the next date, the next touch, the next moment alone together. And when those things stop happening, the attraction can suddenly collapse. You may think, why don't I feel the same anymore? But maybe nothing disappeared. Maybe the fantasy simply ran out of fuel. Love faces a much harder test. What happens when the person is sick? When they're stressed, when they're annoying, when they disappoint you, when they're no longer dressed perfectly, when the relationship becomes ordinary? Because love isn't tested during the most exciting moments. It's tested when there's nothing exciting happening at all. And there's another psychological clue people often miss. Lust wants access. Love wants connection. Lust may become impatient with boundaries. Love respects them. Lust can become obsessed with getting closer physically. Love becomes curious about getting closer emotionally. You start asking different questions, not just, do they find me attractive, but what makes them afraid? What do they need when they're overwhelmed? What kind of future do they actually want? What happens inside them when they pull away? That's when attraction starts turning into attachment. But even love has a dangerous illusion. Sometimes what people call love is actually emotional dependency. You don't necessarily miss the person, you miss the feeling they give you. Their texts regulate your mood, their attention makes you feel valuable, their absence makes you anxious. And suddenly, I love them starts sounding suspiciously similar to, I don't know who I am without them. That isn't necessarily love, that may be attachment, insecurity, or fear of abandonment. And this is why one of the best questions you can ask yourself is surprisingly simple. If the physical attraction disappeared tomorrow, would I still want to know this person? Not marry them, not stay with them, just know them. Would you still want to hear their stories, their opinions, their weird little habits, their childhood memories? Would their mind still fascinate you? If yes, there may be something deeper underneath the attraction. But if everything suddenly feels meaningless without the physical chemistry, you may have been attached to the desire more than the person. And here's the twist. You don't have to choose between lust and love. Healthy, long-term relationships can contain both. In fact, attraction can keep a relationship alive while emotional intimacy gives it depth. The problem begins when you mistake one for the other, because lust can make you chase someone. Love makes you understand them. Lust says, I want you. Love says, I see you. Lust is often fascinated by the version of someone you imagine. Love eventually meets the real person, and the real person is messier. They have bad moods, old wounds, contradictions, insecurities. They will disappoint you sometimes. They will become less mysterious, and somehow you can still choose them. That's when you know something has changed, because the fantasy is no longer doing all the work. You aren't loving an image anymore. You're responding to a human being. So the next time you feel that overwhelming chemistry with someone, don't immediately call it love. Pause. Ask yourself, do I crave their body or do I crave their presence? Do I want their attention or do I want to understand them? Am I afraid of losing them or genuinely grateful that they exist? And perhaps the deepest question of all, if they stopped giving me the feeling I crave, would I still care about the person they are? Because lust can make someone unforgettable for a night. But love is what makes someone meaningful when the night is over. And maybe that's the real difference. Lust wants to experience you. Love wants to know you. If you've ever mistaken one for the other, you're definitely not alone. Tell me in the comments which one you think is harder to recognize, lust or love. And if this made you look at your own relationships a little differently, subscribe for more psychology that explains the feelings we experience but rarely understand.